Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our last session of the Jomba MASIHAMBISANE Day 2. We've had an extraordinary day. The kind of theme and provocation for today has been the idea of non-normative worldings. And we've had some really beautiful conversations, and we've traversed Brazil, Uganda, South Africa. So really an incredible day. And it's my absolute pleasure to be spending the next hour with two artists who I have a deep personal friendship with, but also who are very, very important in the landscape of South Africa, Southern Africa, and a kind of paradigm of thinking about and making work that shifts notions of borders and border crossings, both geographically, but also conceptually. So I'd like to, first of all, introduce the two artists, and I'm going to start with the magnificent Gaby Saranouffi. She's a dancer and a choreographer and artistic director of the Intra Art X Connection, and I never sure if I'm saying it correctly, but she can correct me. She lives and works between South Africa and Madagascar, and she's been decorated with the Knight of the Order of Arts and Letters of Culture by the French government. She's probably one of the most influential pioneers of dance in Madagascar and has been instrumental in promoting Malagasy art. And I think the reason that we know so much about Madagascan arts and artists is because of Gaby's connection to us. She's presented performances in extensive national and international tours. She currently, luckily for us, lives in Johannesburg, South Africa, and is amongst many other programs, is also working on the National Arts Festival Committee for Dance, which is, of course, South Africa's most important national arts festival. Our second guest is the magnificent Yaseen Manuel, who is based in Cape Town. While he works as an independent artist, he's also a member of the groundbreaking integrated dance company, Unmute Dance Company. Manuel's own Cape Town history and personal Muslim spirituality and legacy features very prominently in his work. And in the South African dance community began to sit up and notice his work when he began a series of solos in about 2016, 2017 that began to connect issues of race, religion, and ideas of masculinity in these deeply evocative and excavations of deeply neglected stories and identities in the South African landscape. His recent dance works, Aslama, which linked the Syrian massacre to a more internal battle for self and identity, and his most recent 2024 work, Madagascar, which is a kind of unrelenting and rather ghostly journey into the journey of the genocide in Gaza, have both been called terrifying and beautiful. So they are artists who, through their personal lives and through the work that they make, are constantly shifting borders. So I'd like to say, Gaby, welcome.
Thank you very much, Lliane and the group. Thank you very much, MASIHASIMBIHAN. I don't know how to correct it, please, if I'm wrong. It's difficult. But it's really, really a great pleasure to be part of this conversation and also sharing this space with my friends, and we are all friends. So yes, thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Gaby, and welcome, Yaseen.
Thank you so much, Lliane, and to the team. It's always nice to be back and to share and, tell our stories and, yeah, share.
Thank you, Yaseen. So Gabs, I'm going to dive right in because it feels like there's always so much to say. But I'm going to start with you, Gabs, and to say that you geographically cross a border between Madagascar and South Africa. You've got a life in Madagascar and a life in South Africa, and your artwork. Even though you're now living in South Africa, a lot of the work that you make reflects back on your Malagasy roots and on the idea of where you come from. And so there's a lot of border crossings, geographical border crossings in your work. And I'm wondering how that feels for you and how you negotiate that in your work.
Well, it is an interesting experience, because first of all, yes, I live in both country, but mostly now I live in South Africa. I am trying to be here as a person, as a woman that living in Africa, to be the needle, that having what's the name of this cotton to sew, to connect the dots, culturally, politically between the two countries, because I've been working between the two countries for the past 20 years or more, So lots of work have been done between both countries, as we have a festival, in Madagascar that is still going on in a different form. And then also we continuously sending artists in Madagascar for touring, giving workshops, and having an exchange. And also the same way we're bringing artists from Madagascar to come this side in South Africa to connect and create, with a South African artist. And I think this is really, really important because, as people, as a creator, we need to connect. Me personally, I really love to connect that all the time. I love exchange, collaborations. Sometimes collaboration, it can go wrong, it can go good, but it's okay. It's part of the game because, if you don't try, nothing happen. But for me, what is important to have that connection with the world because, like for instance, Madagascar is a very small country, small island, and it's very difficult to go out of the country because we are surrounded by the sea, and then the means of crossing that to go to Madagascar is very expensive in terms of airlines and all that. So we somehow we are by ourselves. So for me as a creator, as you wanted to grow, you want to see the world. So that's why I push a lot the work between the two countries. And then luckily we have some collaborations between the South African Embassy in Madagascar. They have recognized that, yes, it is important to have this dialogue. And then very soon, we're already talking about it. Very soon, we're going to have more exchange in diplomatic way, culturally, between the both countries, of which it will be including the DSAC this side, Department of Sport and Arts and Culture, and with the South African Embassy that side. And then, I wish, not I wish, and I know that it will be a great opportunity, to happen more, to share more amongst us artists and all that. So, yes.
I mean, I love what you're saying because part of the way that we're talking about border crossings in this MASIHAMBISANE dialogues has been obviously the geographical border crossings, which you speak about, and that little island surrounded by water, and of course the costs of traveling. But there's also a kind of more, that the idea that we also come from legacies where our colonial past has meant that we've also been separated. We've been forcibly separated, and divisions of lands have not been made by ourselves. So this idea of crossing borders is also really about finding for ourselves who our families are that are sometimes not designated by the land and by the lines that were imaginarily drawn by the colonial masters. So I really love you saying that. And Gabby, I'm also interested in you yourself are someone who crosses borders in other ways. You cross the border between being an artistic director, between a choreographer, a dancer, a very most beautiful dancer, an administrator. I always think that it's particularly a female thing. We land up, it's like what I call the motherhood. We land up being mothers, whether we want to or not. And but maybe it's also just being an artist. But I think that crossings of borders between job descriptions, do you think that that's something that's just the way it is being an artist, or do you think it's particularly something that is the way it is for being a women artist or an African artist?
I think it's much more of a choice, because we all have a choice. But for me, the three does not separate. It makes a logic in what I'm doing. Like for instance, when I create, I really have to have a concentration time for that creation. And then when now I'm curating, then yes, it will connect also with what I wanted to do. And then when I do administration, it also will impact with what I'm doing, because the administration that I do, I'm not going far away from the art. It's still within the art. Like for instance, in Madagascar, I've worked with the Minister of Arts and Culture as a cultural attaché, representing the art and the artist in Madagascar. I've created some sort of a cultural policy, within my country. Like, yes, this could work because according to my experience, you can see that maybe this could work. So it's always linked to what I'm doing. And the same here now at National Arts Festival. I'm part of the artistic committee. And mostly recently now, I am doing the main program coordinator, It's fun. For me, it's fun. And being also a mother at the same time. But those are the decisions that is very important in my life, especially as a woman, because as a woman at all the time, especially in Africa, you always being treated not like the man. Whereby you have to work more harder at all the time. But me, I choose to be like that. I wanted to show the world. I wanted to show first my country and also to prove to myself that yes, I can do. So if I can do, then other women too can do. So that's my way of fighting the norms of so-called the society that tells you that you cannot do this, you cannot do that, but you can. You can. So yes.
No, you're a beacon of light, Gabby. You are just so beautiful. So I'm going to jump to Yaseen, and in a kind of different way, but in the same kind of sense of border crossings. I mean, Yaseen, your work speaks to a greater geopolitics of how particularly Muslim identities are situated in spaces like Syria and Palestine. And I'm always interested that a South African choreographer of Muslim heritage has chosen to use your own context as a way to bridge a greater politics in particularly spaces of quite severe oppression and violence. And I wanted to ask you to speak about that.
Yeah, thanks, Anne. Um, I still think of the very beginning, when I started. Um, the politics formed after into the work. At first it was like a personal belief and faith, and me as a South African living in South Africa, and somebody that is in Syria. We believe in the same God, we speak the same language, we are all praying to the same God, but also deservingly, nobody is deserving of this kind of tragedy that happens, because I'm a walking Muslim man in South Africa versus a walking Muslim man in um, Syria or Palestine. And in the beginning, I did it purely out of love, and also most importantly to create this kind of awareness. Um, um, how do I me as an artist open this up to the to the world to see what is happening for those that are not aware. Even if I move and change 10% of a little something of a story that is untold, a very important story. And I crossed this border also because I did feel like it was important to tell. Um, I grew up in a Islamic school also, and these protests, I'll go back to 2001, for example, where these protests were going, and I wasn't much aware of it. I knew what was happening, that there was some kind of genocide, and I keep going back to this line and this thing that they were saying, Biruch bidam nadika ya aksa. I never knew what what it was exactly, but it was some form of protest, it was some form of change what is happening, change what is happening. And this is back in 2001 when I heard this. And yes, I was dancing, I was doing dance works, but I still felt like something was also missing, and I needed to unfold something, whether it was personal belief and personal faith, and how can I also change it, um, or say something about it. These things are being played on TV, you hear it on the radio, people are talking about it, but there's no action also being done. Not saying that what I'm going to do, if I do stand in some kind of solidarity, that it will change any kind of situation. But with personal belief and faith, I know that I've crossed this border to make some kind of stand.
I'm interested too in that. I know that we've had this conversation before, but in Islam, except for the Sufis, perhaps, dance is not really, it's kind of frowned upon a little bit sometimes in more traditional Islam. And I'm interested, it's a question I'm going to ask Gabby as well, but why dance? Because all the things that you've said, which resonate with my heart and spirit, we could stand at a corner and protest. We could write a novel. We could make a song. We could, there's all ways in which we protest, but you've chosen particularly to use your body. And I'm interested to, kind of why dance, really?
Yeah, inside and personally, if I was a journalist, or if I was any sort of, if I was on radio or anything, I'd still kind of have a very soft spot for this kind of topic and story. But I'm just so privileged that dance is with me. Um, um, so there was a reason for me learning the tools, learning steps, learning how to move, and then this kind of topic, it got me excited to actually put it on my body, put it on someone else's body, research the topic, how does it make me feel and whatever. So I'm just fortunate that I do know how to dance. I would have done the same thing if I was a journalist, or if I was any kind of publicist, or anything. But I feel like dance is the best way to describe the pain, the tragedy, the sorrow, the beautiful moments of what is happening inside of these countries. It's on the face, it's in the body, and if I can transcend that in my body and have the audience follow with what it is that I'm doing, then I'm in the right place. Um, I'm just using the tool. Um, just using the tool.
And
Yeah.
also, I mean, in a way, just to speak to that, it is through the body that we viscerally experience pain and suffering. Hunger is not an abstract concept. It's something
Mm,
that you feel on the body. And,
mm,
I think about, the Palestinian poet Musab Absai, who writes one of my favorite poems of the moment. Is he says, one of his poems, the first few lines, it says, "I wake up in the morning. The first thing I do is I look around to see who is still left." And I kind of think, that is not an abstract intellectual concept. And I think dance works that way. It's such an embodied way of viscerally connecting to, as you say, connecting from Syria to South Africa, from Palestine. So let me take that question to Gabby, because also, why dance? What is it about dance that called you?
Uh, is one that saved my life, you know. Since I was a child, I was grown up with a religious family, of which is Christianity is the most popular in Madagascar. And then at that time, I wanted to be a nun, you know. But once, it's true, I don't believe
I'm learning a
today.
new thing about you now.
You see? And then at the first time when I met dance, so everything changes completely. My life changed completely. I understood exactly what is life about, you know, because dance is about the touching, not only exterior, but mostly your interior human being. So from that on, as a tools for me to tell my story, to tell the story of others, especially women. Like you know very well that I am the voice of the women that cannot speak through my dance. Steps are there, but of course the conceptual part of it that makes the piece the way how he is, and also it allows me to have this crossing conversation between myself and my soul and the people that watch my show. So for me, dance is very sacred, because I find my inner peace when I dance. If I have problems, if I don't feel good when I dance, everything will blow away. And also it helps me a lot in terms of the health, and the memory. It was really amazing, especially when I was a child. When I go to school, I don't need to study a lot. It was like miraculously. Every time I know everything, I memorize everything. And that started when I started dancing, you know. So it's really changed my life. So that's why I don't want to stop dancing. And then I say to myself, one day, if I get married in this life or I get a man, you know, I will never stop dancing, because most of the time as a woman, if you are, once you get married, yeah, the family or the man will tell you, you must stop now. And that's the reason why we have crises in African country, especially, that yes, women are becoming small in the art because of that, you know. So I say, yes, whoever comes, I don't mind. I don't compromise. Huh? Either you're in or out. So I come with dance, and dance is my life. Dance is me. So if you let me not to dance, then you will kill me. So yes,
Yeah.
so I am really happy to have dance that saves my life, and I wish that every time when I create, it can also crossing to the other women or other people that watching my show. It can heal them or heal myself, you know, having the same journey within my artistry, you know. So that's why I'm dancing.
So beautiful. So so beautiful. Yes, I wanted to ask, your recent work, Madagascar, which was part of the Jomba Market Theatre Commission. In fact, you were the first person to get the Pakamisa Market Theatre Jomba Commission. And you made this extraordinary work called Madagascar, which dealt directly with a situation in Palestine. And I know that it began as a solo work, and then you chose to extend the work and to put it onto other bodies. And I'm interested to hear a little bit about how that how that story, particularly a story about your own Muslim South African identity, I think unfortunately, oh, there's Yas, you might have dropped
Ah,
out. Are you back?
I'm back. Sorry.
I don't know how
Yes.
much of the question you heard. I'm going on a sort of like a
Um,
thing around
yeah,
your
yeah.
beauty.
No,
Should I?
the Madagascar Market Theatre, and then it just, yeah.
Okay, let me go back. No problem at all. So
Okay.
I was interested in this work because I know it began as a solo,
Yeah,
and you then chose, when you got the Phakamisa Commission, you chose to invite other bodies into the work. And
yeah,
I'm interested because the work is very, you work particularly from your own African, South African Muslim heritage that speaks
yeah,
to the border crossings into other Muslim countries with struggles like Syria and Palestine. And I
yeah.
was interested in your choice to bring other bodies into your work, and how did you negotiate the narrative and the understandings of that?
Yeah, I normally explore all my works, research and by myself, and I normally start off as a solo, and then pull strings from it. Because it's just my style and way of working that I found to explore by myself, put the work on my own body, and then stretch it out eventually into a full
I think Shami's frozen again, and this is so interesting.
work. Um, then,
You've frozen again. Are you there?
can
You're
you?
back. You froze for a
I'm
moment.
here. Sorry,
Okay.
I don't know where you heard all. So I create work on myself and my body, and all the research is done on my body, and from there, for me to see the extension of my work, I like to create an ensemble, where I can see how it impacts with a full and bigger cast, like. There's a great example of Flatfoot when I did Aslama in 2018. Very happy. That was my first idea about this. And then I've extended also, I thought about the same work. I've done the solo Madakan, and then I've extended with another three other male dancers, um, which is also very well received. I mean, there were a few disturbed, and there were a few, you'd get people walk out, you'd get people question, you'd get people loving it. So there's different kind of questions and comments that is also made about the work. But the guys that I used, I needed strong men. Specifically, I chose these strong men so that they could just show um, the physicality of what is happening during war, because you get women throwing rocks, but you don't get women physically running inside the war and picking up a gun and shooting. And with these women in Palestine and Syria, they're all in defense. So the rock is the only kind of weapon they had, which I brought out in Syria, exactly the same, but on a more sensitive kind of um, uh, 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 um, in a sensitive kind of way. Both these stories are the same, the Syrian massacre and the Palestinian massacre. But with the Syrian massacre, I brought out something more sensitive and softer. Where with Madakan, I wanted to show the pure tragedy and struggle and pain and all of that. And this time around, also, I've never worked with a cast, a full male cast as well, and yeah, I just thought, and these guys were flying already. They were super fit, and I'm like, I know, I'm coming to fetch you, and you are gonna help me because I think I've done enough with the work, but you guys are gonna help me pull and push this work through.
And Yaseen, in terms of them understanding, I mean, South Africa, I think generally, I speak maybe perhaps generally, but there is a high consciousness around the struggles in Gaza, because of our actions in the criminal court, and because it is in our rhetoric, and Mandela and all of that stuff. So we've been a very pro-Palestinian country for a very, very long time. So it is in our consciousness in many ways. So the actual narrative, how did you find translating? Because it's different spiritual realities in a way, and I'm interested in that border crossing of how, I mean, I was privileged enough to see the work in performance, and I thought that they defended the work in the most sublime way and in the most tender and moving kinds of ways. But I'm interested in how you negotiated the stories and the rehearsals.
So there was a couple of topics that I pulled from the story itself, where I focused on one character, and I researched one character, and method acting. So for like 3 weeks, I've gone through this person's life. I've gone through this person's interviews. I've gone through everything. I've researched into this person's family. So I did a bit of method acting, and it helped me with the images, the images and the things I wanted to narrate with the body. So I pulled a few things that he was saying. When he was inside of the cell, how he was tortured, the positions they put him in. To torture him, the threats that they said, your family, this is what's happening to your family if you do not do this. So my main focus was the detainee, but also with the detainee being released, what is your life outside of Palestine? What is outside in the streets? Once you are with your family, what is your daily lifestyle? So there was still ongoing war. There was still threats. There was still these bombs and explosions falling and everything. But also, I also wanted to highlight the sensitivity of man, um, where we live in a world where sometimes things it's full of aggression and everything, and with a Palestinian man, things is always on the go, and it's on the go. And this is research that I had about this guy that I was researching. He's mentioned that his life has never stopped one bit, whether it is that he is taking 2 steps, whether it is that he is just picking up something from the floor, his life has always been threatened and it's never stopped. So he never had peace, basically. So that was the kind of aggression I wanted to bring in. And being in the studio and exploring with these dancers, um, I explained the story to them. And we dissected, we pulled things. These are the 5 topics that we're going to talk about, and this is what I'd like to explore with you. And they understood. They already knew, they were aware of the story, but putting them inside the story and the work was a completely different ball game for them. They never understood these characters and what these people really what they really went through. And I had them research. I gave them things to do and things to read about and whatever, so that they can really embody what it is that I was trying to say. I do struggle as a Muslim man, working in an ensemble, as especially when there's Arabic text being said, when it gets a bit hectic, trying to being alone, trying to portray a certain character using the Arabic, exactly what is happening, what is said through research, everything. And I had these guys workshop Arabic. So I've taught them a few Arabic things, a few Arabic texts and things, so that they could enhance and they could help me. Because when the time is needed, it's when it's the most exhausted. It's and that's when I needed them, because I couldn't be on top of my lungs saying something um, 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 by myself. It got hectic in Aslama also. I've asked Kumalu, I've asked these guys, to enhance and help me feel something. Yes, they are embodying everything, but I needed to come out with text also. So they enjoyed the process, but it was also quite scary for them as well, because they're adapting into a world that they never thought they ever would. And I'm glad I could open that doors for them, and I was very happy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a visceral thing as well, because it's also I mean, for all of us, it's deeply personal, but I suspect perhaps it's one level more personal for you as well, because of your own faith and a sense of being in the world. And I want to push that question to Gaby, because you've also recently made, well, it's not a new solo, but I've recently only engaged it, but your solo, which is very much a confluence of Malagasy culture and of your life in South Africa as well, and speaks very much to these personal issues around what it means to be a woman and a queen and a mother. And I wanted to also just talk a little bit about your process of making that solo.
Ah, yes. First of all, when a photographer calls me, like, Gaby, I wanted to do this piece only me as a model. His name is Christian Randianampizafi. He says the queen, like the queen, the life of the queen, he want to portray it within me as a model with the three parts of life of the queen. So I say, yes, that is really interesting. And then we made the research with the queen. He sent me the book and I read the book. And then when I see, like, yeah, when you are at school, you learn certain things, but most of the history is hidden, Lots of our history, we don't find them in our country. We found our archive, like, for instance, when I was in Stockholm, in the museum there, you find a lot of history of Madagascar, but I never see in my country. The same in France, and etc., etc. So when I started reading the book, and I say to him, please, can I at least create a solo with this, with the queen, with the story of the queen, because it is interesting me as a woman, because her life was really very heavy and very sad and painful, as she was the face of the Madagascar at that time, with her beauty and ruling. But at the end of the day, she was just a puppet, It's her husband that was ruling in her place. And then she was betrayed, and then also she was dethroned with the French, and then after we become colonized, and she was, how do I say it? What's the words? They sent her in exile until her death, in two countries, first in Reunion Island, and then after in Algeria, whereby she almost anonymously died without no one knows, So, and then she fought a lot to come back to Madagascar to join her people, and hoping that, yes, she can still rule and all that, but unfortunately, she could not make it. So for me, her story speaks to me very, very hard and very, very strong. Also, like me myself now, I don't feel like, yes, I'm exiled in South Africa, but it's different because I still have a choice. I have a freedom. And unlike her, she was just sent there and not treated good and etc. It's like taking all your life from you. So I use her story first of all to portray the story of Madagascar, to tell the story of Madagascar, because lots of people does not know what is Madagascar with their history. And through that piece, a lot of people get interested more to know, oh, we didn't know about the queen was having a life like this, So I'm happy to be able to open that channel, to open knowledge more to the people. And then through this piece, through that piece as well, um, I am I am I am celebrating the powerful women, because she didn't just live, but she fought until her own life, until her own death. And I wanted to say that, yes, we need to start celebrating each other, especially women, embracing each other. Because, we all have our daily life struggle as a woman, but mostly we need to help each other, and then going into the fight together, like, yes, yeah, we can make it, we can do it, and be happy, especially to liberate, to make women free. So most of the time after I perform the piece with an opera singer, she has a beautiful voice. In the piece, I chose not to talk. She's the one who's narrating a poem that me and her, we research. And she's singing, she's my voice, and I am the body of the queen, and also body of myself, with my struggle, with my story. And that also is reflecting to other women's life. So during the process of research, we often cry, me and her, like, wow, this is, I don't know, I've never had a research like this with anyone, with any of my creation. I never cried, but I cried, especially I cried and she cried also, because sometimes it's evoking certain pain or a emotion that the untold things, untold story that you never been having a chance to say, but your boy, that's like comes out, and then we ask question, if we cry like this, how about the audience? So they're going also to cry. But yeah, what is interesting often after performing the piece, men and women, they come and see us and they say that, oh, especially women, they say, thank you for making us to be free, and thank you for being the voice of women, because also when they say whatever that queen has experienced, it's also reflecting into their life. So they say thank you. So yeah, it is an interesting a feedback, when you try to cross other people's story, and also trying to reach out the inner of the audience. I'm not trying to reach out the owner of the audience, but I do it myself. Like, we are all choreographers and dancers. So the power of what we are performing, it speaks to them. So I'm really happy at all the time when I perform that piece, because it is a very unique and special piece. Each piece are special, but this one is really speaks to me as well.
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah. I'm interested also in the issue which has come up quite a lot in the colloquium, about the way in which certain histories have been erased, and how performance becomes a way of re-exploring and re-remembering histories. And I think always about Madagascar, I know we've made this joke before, but most people know about Madagascar because of the Disney,
Yes,
and it's a particular way of
yeah.
So, it's interesting. So kind of my last question to you both before I kind of open it up, but in the light of listening to you both, I consider you to be both deeply profound artists. Do you consider, and in our discussions, because your works in different ways really speak truth to power. And do you think about yourselves? Do you think dance and our art in this day and age is activism? And I don't mean the activism, say, of like Rosa Albert and of the 1980s, where there was a very political, very overt message that was spoken through art. But I feel like through this conference, this is one of the things that's been sitting in my head is, are we redefining the beginnings or the understandings of what it means to be an artist activist? Because we have, I think, as people of the South, so much to say and so much history to re-remember and to fight against colonial patriarchy, and to, in terms of your work, to speak against new versions of empire, Yaseen. Do you think, maybe Gabby, you could answer first, do you think that we are inventing a new kind of activism as artists and dance makers?
I think we are, because through our art, we participate in whatever activism or artivism you are doing, like for instance, each piece of mine, it's always inspired from whatever what's happening in society, whether, for instance, women abuse, get raped, and children and mother and grandmother, in your own house or whatever, sexual tourism and all that, the social injustice, and it's many, many ways. So that's, for me, it's an act of activism, and then I take inspiration from those to create my own work, because otherwise I am not interested in creating steps without any profound concept or without any meaning, because steps are steps. What makes your work is powerful is your soul, is your content, and is how you portray your history, and and get inspired from what is happening. Like for instance, I wanted to share a bit my experience when I was in Egypt. You come to, I don't have anything against anything, but I'm just a woman, you come into a place whereby, women have burqas and no one can see them. But inside, when they go to the toilet, they are wearing the most expensive, beautiful clothes and all that. And then they eat under the burqa. The men are free. And then women are sold at a very young age to a very old man, and because of your family is already telling you that yes, you're already a wife to that specific man. So that is their way of living. I mean, but that hurts me as a woman. We don't have freedom and all that. That's why I created my piece called moi. Moi means in French means me. Me as a woman, me as a mother, me and as a grandmother, the global. So I was wondering, if we live in a situation like that, and also I combine that kind of a social social things that is happening there, and also it can happen somewhere in different form in different country, like in Africa. Also, we have some sort of like, yeah, you cannot choose your husband or your wife, or you cannot marry between two religions, like in Egypt. If you are Muslim and if you are a Muslim and Christian, they both get killed. I was shocked when I was in Egypt, and they love each other, so they don't want to be dead. So those are social things that it makes me to create. So for me, that is a part of like also engaging myself and putting my what? Not my stamp, but giving my contribution to the society. So
Yeah.
it's form of an activism in through my art. So yes,
Yeah.
that's just an example.
Thank you, Gabby. And yes, also to kind of send the question to you, you know, your work, as I said earlier, resonates with a much larger geopolitics. And I know that it starts from a deeply personal space, and it speaks to, you know, Syria, Sudan, DRC, Palestine, Gaza. Do you think of yourself as an artist and maybe as an activist? Are we redefining activism? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, Leanne. I I do think that I would like to contribute, but do I think that I'm activating something? I 100% do believe that I am activating something. There's many artists that also works in their form and they contribute to their form. It can be deeply personal, or it can also be what's on the surface and what's happening in reality and what's happening in the world today. Um, uh, Main reasons also why I've tackled this story. It's also to activate Islam on stage. You know, it's to activate some kind of Islam through dance. It's also to activate my personal upbringing, and there's Arabic on stage. There's Islam. It's beautiful, you know, and um, when different countries this kind of dance form is being celebrated, and also here I keep saying this, it's celebrated in the other Middle Eastern countries, and South Africa it's not really celebrated. It's frowned upon, it's prohibited. But also there's a beautiful unfold. I believe that I'm also not activating what's only happening in Gaza and the politics and all of that and the border crossings. Yes, for sure, I am hitting those avenues, but also from a personal faith, just being a Muslim man in South Africa doing dance. I think I'm also activating something because I have inspired a lot of Muslim artists just here. There's not a lot, and you know, I also call it bravery. You know, I'm comfortable here. I can't do it in the Middle Eastern countries. I can't go to Syria and speak about this massacre. You know, I have a friend that is in Syria. I made connection with him, and he's completely on a different spectrum. He's dancing as well, but he's about flowers because he's lived the whole situation. And on the other side, I am all about activating and, you know, showing what is happening, what's happening in the genocide. And we couldn't find a collaboration point because there was this that I wanted to speak about, and then there was this that he wanted to speak about. So we never hit the same length, but it's his way of working. But also, as Gabby also mentioned, you know, that is what she's contributing, and she'd like to also activate. This is what I am contributing, not with personal faith, belief, and spirituality. Um, I feel like this is my way, and these topics that I'm saying, it's unfolding organically out of me. Yeah.
Really beautiful. And I know that you have had personal struggles as well, in that for a long time your family didn't really quite understand what you were doing, and that recently
Yeah.
it's kind of shifted a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, in its most beautiful way.
yeah,
I think that had to happen for me to find myself today.
yeah. I love,
I also today.
sorry,
Yeah, no, I
yes.
still I still think about it. I used to play football, and I never knew that I'd ever be dancing today. You know, I was happy in my football life. I was content. I knew that this is what I was gonna do. Hence the legs. Sometimes you see the bow legs and everything. No, but dance. I found dance, and I'm forever most grateful.
And I really loved what you said about bravery, because I think what we are all reimagining, and it is a kind of, I suppose it is a kind of sense of worlding, is a kind of a bravery to speak and to kind of to go on those personal journeys that give us meaning and are about shifting out of narrow definitions of what we should be and could be, but to kind of find what we are. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm mindful of the time. We've kind of run out of time, but I really feel deeply inspired by both of you as artists and as human beings, and as a fellow South African, to feel such courage to know that both of you are speaking in the world and in my world, and to say thank you to both of you for your work and your ongoing work, and for being with us this afternoon and to speak so personally and so bravely. I think I just want to, I kind of, it's been resonating me with a little bit, but Petra Costa this morning said that happiness is our revenge. And I thought, well, if anything, it's also community. Community is our revenge. And to thank you both for the community that you've given us and for the work that you continue to do. So thank you very much.
Pleasure, pleasure. Thank you for having me, Lliane, and to the rest of the team.
Thank you.
I appreciate being on here.
Thank you. Gabs?
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Last
same
words.
here. Yeah. Same here. Thank you very much. And continue to have this kind of a platform, because this is really a very interesting and beautiful platform. And then it's an essential platform, because since I've been following what is happening, it's connect us more, and learning to know each other, working together, supporting each other, from not only from South Africa, but around the world. That's what is crossing about. So thank you very much for inviting us. And then I was really enjoying having conversation with Yaseen and with Lliane. Thank you very much for making us be
Thank you
part.
so much.
Thank you, Gaby.
And with that, we end day 2 of our beautiful colloquium. I'll remind you all that our last day tomorrow. So to please join us. We start at 10 o'clock with 2 extraordinary papers. And the provocation for tomorrow is worlding pedagogies and re-remembering histories. So we start the day with 2 really beautiful papers, one from Alan Parker, South African, and the second from Zhiling Zhao from China and the UK. And then following that, we have an incredible panel hosted by Tobile Mapanga of our steering committee, looking at the idea of festivals as spaces where we cross borders. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you all tomorrow.